Hello and welcome. This is iBuzz and I'm your host, Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the most exciting entertainment news from showbiz world. In today's episode, we will be discussing what the critics have to say about the new releases, followed by a movie review on Wonder Woman 1984. First things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard film sequel slated by critics. Matrix 4, the iconic action in Sci Fi Franchise, returns. Nirvana's surviving members have recorded new music which is unlikely to be released. Carrie Underwood and John Legend win Video of the Year at CMT Awards. And Sir Elton John warns musicians face EU tour catastrophe. And now moving to the top story of the day. 18 years after The Matrix Reloaded and The Matrix Revolutions ended the Matrix trilogy in polarizing fashion among film critics and fans, Lana Wachowski is bringing the iconic action franchise back for a fourth go-round on big screen with the upcoming Matrix 4. To have further discussion on the subject, we have Ghosh joining us from UK, who is an entertainment journalist. Ghosh, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Nosheen. Thank you once again for having me.
So, Ghosh, in your opinion, would expanding Matrix favor the franchise more? What do you think?
I mean, it's a tough one because The Matrix in 1999 was so iconic, and then The Matrix Reloaded and then The Matrix Revolutions, both were in 2003, were so iconic. And I mean, according to Reddit, the Wachowskis and also the producer Joel Silver wanted to basically split the last film into two to make it a conclusion. They were only released within a couple of months of each other to give viewers the option to digest the first film and then watch the conclusion of the franchise a couple months later. So I think, it's a funny one, isn't it? I mean, I know The Matrix was a commercial success. I know it was, I know as of, I think in the early noughties in 2006, the franchise has generated over $3 billion in revenue. A very large amount at that. It's obviously clearly a commercial successful franchise, which is why I think Warner Brothers want to bring it back. However, obviously with another sequel, I think there is a kind of legacy at stake here.
Right, and expectations are high. The previous two Matrix movies could not amaze the fans as the first part of Matrix did. In short, it was a bit overwhelming action than the concept itself. So as a critic, what would you suggest and then expect for this fourth sequel?
Well, I would suggest, I mean, I'm not sure if suggesting and expectations are the same thing, because whether or not the studios will actually listen to the critics and do what they want anyway, I mean, they've done this many a time before. I mean, I would expect that, obviously, I think audiences now, with the growing age of technology, you know, we see tablets and iPhones now at the norm, you know, technology has advanced so much in 10 years that I think audiences, would be more aware of technology. And considering this is a cyberpunk franchise that's set in a world which artificial intelligence has basically imprisoned humans in this sort of system, I think the audiences will be less susceptible to more complicated ideas with technology these days. So, I mean, I think hopefully, I reckon Warner Brothers are going to try and blow our minds. I would suggest that they shouldn't overcomplicate it too much. And I think kind of it's obviously there is a very much a nostalgia boom at the moment. We're seeing loads of rebirths, and we're seeing loads of reboots. You know, we've seen the Friends reunion recently. There's clearly a nostalgia boom. I would hope that the Warner Brothers Studios and whoever's making the film and distributing the film will have nods to the first 3 films, but they won't overly saturate it with references to the previous 3 or previous, as you said, 2 films, because the last 2 sequels was one split into 2. So hopefully they shouldn't saturate it with loads and loads of corny references. That's my one hope.
Right. And Josh, returning franchise actors are the same, Keanu Reeves and Gary. However, the movie is truly star-studded this time with Christina Ricci, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, Neil Patrick Harris, and Jessica Henwick. But there is a bit of a disappointment for the fans, which comes in the form of omitting Morpheus from the movie. Lawrence Fishburne was not contacted for the return. In that case, would you advise the fans to keep their expectations high or low? And what were your initial thoughts when you came to know about this?
I mean, my initial thoughts was I was shocked because I thought Matrix without Morpheus.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing,
it's nothing.
I know that Jada Pinkett Smith is returning to the franchise.
Yes,
she's coming back as Naomi. So I think fans are still relieved about that. But that's the thing. I think omitting an iconic character is, especially when you're effectively rebirthing a franchise over 10 years later, that's a big risk. I mean, I doubt it's going to have an effect. I doubt fans of the franchise are going to boycott the films just because Morpheus is not in it. And that's the thing. We've got Keanu Reeves, we've got Carrie, we've got Jada Pinkett Smith, and then we've got the other names that you mentioned that make up the star-studded cast. I just think, listen, if they stick to the filmmaking that they're known for, they do have intimate scenes as well as those live action scenes. They make some references to the original franchise. I think it could work, just as long as I think they're going to make some sort of a reference to Morpheus. They cannot not make a reference to Morpheus. He was such a big part of the original franchise. But I doubt that fans are going to boycott the movie just because he's not.
Right, but
it's a shame.
Still, he will be missed.
He will be missed, definitely.
So Keanu Reeves has mentioned that there is no going into the past this time, whereas from the first 3 parts we have learned that the movie is based on the events from past. So what are the odds for the story development this time?
I mean, that's the thing. The story development can go absolutely anywhere. And again, with The Matrix, because The Matrix is, it has references to all sorts of things like philosophical points of view, religious points of view, spiritual ideas, the dilemma of choice versus control, the brain in a vat thought experiment, Zionism, concepts of interdependency and love. That's the thing. I mean, the films can go anywhere. There are so many concepts involved. There are so many influences involved. Whether we're looking towards the future this time, that's always a thing that's going to obviously cross the mind of the fans. There's already so much speculation online. I mean, that's the thing. This is The Matrix. There are glitches everywhere. We could go everywhere. Right. However, it's because the film is the franchise is so iconic. We obviously have the red pill, blue pill moment. I mean, that's the thing. We just don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, and speaking of red and blue pills, since Morpheus is not here, so it means no red and blue pills this time.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Right. Morpheus isn't there. We just don't know where it's going to go.
So, Josh, it has been repeated a number of times by the actors, especially Neil Patrick Harris and Jessica Henwick, in terms of camera work and stunts coordination, where Lana did not rely on the second unit directing team. With all these claims of breaking the stereotypes in Hollywood, in your opinion, what exactly do they mean by that?
Well, I'm not sure what they mean by that, if quite frankly. I mean, that's the thing. I know Hollywood, some people have stuntmen, other people don't. I mentioned Mission Impossible. Tom Cruise is known for doing his own stunts. I mean, does that mean that they're not using green screen technology? Does that mean they're not using
the 2 of the actors that I just mentioned, they repeatedly said that the filming and the direction is out of this world this time, especially the camera work that they have, come up with. So in terms of that direction point of view.
Yeah, I think that's just a press line for by the actors and by the studio to drum up publicity for the film, if I'm going to be honest, and to build excitement around the film. I mean, of course, they're going to say something along those lines, and because obviously the last film was made into 2003. Was when the last two films were released within months of each other. Filmmaking has developed a lot since those times. This is over a decade later. So of course, Hollywood is going to take advantage of the new wave of technology that has been developed over the years. But the actors aren't really going to say anything else other than to pump up the film and to draw some publicity around it and to get the fans excited. Because if they were to go out in Hollywood and say, yeah, we're just using the same sort of technology as was a decade ago, then fans are going to go, really? That's surprising. Of course they're going to say it's developed. Of course they're going to say it's out of this world. Of course they're going to say it's impressive. What else are they going to say?
True.
So I think that was purely a publicity stunt. And that's the thing, because they're being so kind of specific but yet also grey at the same time, it raises the questions, and we're talking about it now. So I mean, it's a job well done from the studio's point of view, I say.
Right. So all the best to the franchise, and I hope this time they will come up with something entertaining enough that would not disappoint the fans.
I hope so too, for the fans' sake.
Yeah. Josh, it was indeed incredible talking to you. Thank you very much indeed.
An absolute pleasure, Nasheen. Thank you.
That was Josh Rom with his views on the Matrix 4 franchise. And now it's time for other story details of the day. The movie Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard has received very mixed reviews from film critics ahead of its cinema release next week. The movie is a sequel to Hitman's Bodyguard, which was a surprise box office hit in the summer of 2017. But while some critics acknowledged the film isn't meant to be taken too seriously, most were still unimpressed. The sequel sees Samuel L. Jackson, Selma Hayek, and Ryan Reynolds reprise their roles alongside new additions to the cast, including Morgan Freeman and Antonio Banderas. But the star weightage behind the movie was not enough to win its spot at the box office. Dave Grohl has revealed that Nirvana's surviving members have recorded really cool new music together, but it's unlikely to ever see the light of day. In a latest interview, Grohl revealed how he and bassist Novoselic, along with Nirvana touring guitarist and Foo Fighters member Pat Smear, still meet up for jam sessions, which occasionally result in creating new tracks. The three friends have reunited on stage several times since Kurt Cobain took his life in April 1994. They memorably recruited John Jett, Kim Gordon, St. Vincent, and Lord to front their performance during the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony in April 2014. When asked about their latest jam sessions, Grohl revealed that the trio did not have a designated singer. Carrie Underwood and John Legend won the top prize at this year's CMT Awards. The pair scooped the Video of the Year accolade for their tune Hallelujah, and Carrie congratulated John, who wasn't able to attend the ceremony, at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville. The ceremony was co-hosted by Kelsey Ballerini and Kane Brown, who took home 2 prizes on the night: Male Video of the Year for Worship You and Collaborative Video of the Year for Famous Friends, alongside Chris Young, beating off competition from Carrie and John. Taylor Swift, who wasn't able to attend the ceremony, won the fan-voted Best Family Feature accolade for her home footage video for the song The Best Day. Sir Elton John has warned MPs that the UK music industry could lose a generation of talent because of post-Brexit restrictions on touring the EU. The musician accused ministers of being unwilling to fix a gaping hole in the current Brexit deal, which means artists need costly visas to play in the bloc. The government says the EU rejected its attempts to negotiate visa-free travel, while the EU claims the opposite. Sir Elton John called the situation a looming catastrophe for the UK music. And that is it from Newsroom. We will be back with a review on the movie Wonderwomen 1984. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In this segment, we will review Wonder Woman 1984. Wonder Woman 1984, stylized on screen and often abbreviated as WW84, is a 2020 American superhero film based on the DC comic character Wonder Woman. It is the sequel to 2017's Wonder Woman and the 9th installment in the DC Extended Universe. Rated 5.4 on IMDb, the movie met with a lot of mixed reviews. To review the movie, film critic Ananya Ghosh has joined us online from India. Ananya, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's great to be back.
So, Wonder Woman 1984 tried to come back as a stronger sequel. The cast was, of course, brilliant, but I would like you to comment on the plot and settings of this movie.
So my basic thing was like it's 1984, so of course it's set in the 80s, and you have the color scheme, the color palette, which is like very 80s, and it's somehow like reminds you of the Christopher Reeves movies of the like Superman movies.
Yeah.
But what I felt was the setting was spot on. Like, you have the clothes, you have all the fun of the 80s, but it didn't lead to anywhere. Like, if a movie is named 84, then it should reflect in the plot itself, which it didn't. Like, it could have been any time frame, basically. But yeah, it was a good, fun setup. Like, I think she set it up in the 80s because it would be a fun look to the movie.
And Ananya, Gal Gadot is an amazing actress, but most of the critics have declared that Wonder Woman's storyline is not doing justice with her acting skills. What is your take on that?
Absolutely. Like, there is actually nothing that happens in this movie. Like, it is just she's looking pretty. Like, that we have so many things that, like, but why waste Wonder Woman into that? And we had come a long way in the last Wonder Woman movie, right? It was a breakthrough kind of a movie for especially the whole feminism movement, or even as a movie, as a piece of cinema. I mean, this was just like she was just being pretty again, like, that leggy beauty, you have those high slits, etc., in the gowns and whatnot.
And the substance was missing.
Yeah, there was just nothing, and she is like going back to the ex-lover, and even though, of course, like there are some emotional moments where you see her acting, but that was very far and between, like it just didn't do anything for me. But yeah, it was good fun to watch. Like, if you're not comparing it with the other Wonder Woman movie, and if you are thinking of it as just another 80s superhero movie, then it's good fun to watch.
Right. And Ananya, there's a bit of a contradiction. If you look at the reviews, they go kind of in favor of the movie. But the budget spent on the movie was $200 million, and it could only give back $166 million back to box office. So this contradiction, it leaves a viewer or a fan who wants to watch the movie in a bit of confusion.
Right. I also think that is because, like, it didn't get the kind of release that it was supposed to get. And also, I think it's like, there was a good buzz initially, but then it just fell flat. So, that also killed the vibe of the movie and impacted the box office a lot. And I think it was released in the US in some like other platform, like which was not the very popular one or something of that sort. I'm not too sure about that. And it released in India and world over very late. Like, it just released last year. I mean, I think a few months back, rather.
Yeah. So, Ananya, with the cast like Kristen Wiig, Chris Pine, Pedro Pascal, the movie was expected to do some wonders. But that could also not help. Do you think that changing the cast or adding people from, mainstream line can fix the problem in this franchise?
The thing is, the movie had all the right people, but it just didn't have the script or the story. So, like, you have, like, you couldn't have done better with the cast. I mean, all the cast members, they did a fabulous job with whatever they had to do. But I think it's not about the cast as much as it is, because it had Gal Gadot. So what else do you need for a movie to, like, hit the box office? So, but then the thing is, it's just that the plot was like a fishnet. It was full of holes and it just didn't do anything. So, you can't help, like, you can't put a multi-starter this thing, but not have a storyline, especially in today's time and age. Like, this could have worked. Actually, if it was 1984, it might have worked. Even in the 90s, it might have worked, but not in 2021. And especially when most people are watching it in a small screen, maybe, like, where you have more, you notice the flaws more, maybe. Like, if you're watching something on a big screen, you are more about the spectacle of it.
Yeah.
But, it's not about the cast at all, because the cast was, like, good. I mean, I would, like, everybody did their part pretty well.
Right.
It's just the story didn't add up.
So, Ananya, no comparison, but normally it has been observed that movies coming from Marvel Universe, they keep relying on the real original story creators, especially those who have worked writing the comics down. But in DC, we don't see that happening much. So do you think that experimenting with the writers is something that keeps giving DC weak storylines and, less blockbusters?
Absolutely. And also the thing is that, if you don't have somebody from the franchise doing it, you slip up a lot. Like, in this particular movie, this is in 84, right? Then you have Batman versus Superman, which is like, I think 2015 or something. So, there is no continuity. And if you say that this is entirely a different movie, which is not part of the DC timeline, then you have the Superman versus Batman, like, you have the track from there used here. So you can't say that you are not referencing there. But if you are, then why is Wonder Woman flying here and not flying in that movie, which is like, I mean, I think what, like 10 years, like whatever, 2000, my maths is bad. But yeah, so it's much like later, right? She just like loses her powers. It just makes no sense to me. And also the fact that there is no, I mean, you can't view a DC movie as just a one-off thing, right? Because there are so many things going on, and a person who is writing it cannot just be so casual about the entire scheme of things. You are not making a random movie, right? It's part of a bigger world, so it needs to add up. So this doesn't, and I think there has to be something which carries forward the legacy, or you have some things that tie the entire thing together. Of course, there are many movies which are like standalone movies, but then you don't have the homages, and then you don't have those tracks coming in between, right? Like you can't have Batman, Superman, the track, Hans Zimmer track coming in this movie, and then you say that, oh, we are just a standalone thing. So I think it's the writing, and also just giving the job to just anybody who might not have much knowledge of the entire universe. So I think that is a flaw that keeps on coming back in the DC universe.
Exactly. I mean, the movie should complement the comics itself, especially for the readers who have been, reading the comics and then watching the movie. It can be disappointing for them. So, Ananya, do you think that better sequels can help sustain the franchise, or it would be better to keep the character in Justice League?
I think they should do something about, like, when they are making a movie, that Wonder Woman was a one-off thing, the first Wonder Woman that they did, like, I mean, but after that, DC is just, it gets so blah with DC, like, they are not really modern, they are not really in that time zone, they are not really adding anything to anything. So I think a sequel needs to be well thought out, like, you can't just be, like, we are not kids anymore that, oh, one day you decide to make a Wonder Woman sequel and you make it, give it to anybody. So I think there has to be more seriousness coming in while making a sequel, because people take it very seriously. It's not just a fun thing that you do, right? Like this particular movie especially, it's like, it's like those Bollywood movies which are so random, they are very stylized, etc., but nothing really happens.
Exactly.
So, they need to put their heads together and think what they want to do, or else just shut it down. I mean, this was just such a letdown.
Right. So Wonder Woman should have to be like more than glamour and, So
there's
Ananya,
too much at stake.
Thank you very much indeed. It was a brilliant discussion.
Thanks so much.
That was Ananya Ghosh reviewing Wonder Woman 1984. And that is it from today's episode. We'll see you next week with some more entertainment news. Until then, don't forget to share your feedback on the social media link mentioned down below. We'll see you next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.